Everyone, I'm Reed Phillips, and I want to welcome you on behalf of my 35 colleagues at Oaklins DeSilva+Phillips. We started the Dealmakers Summit in 2003 and ran that for 12 years. It was an all-day conference, and in 2015 we changed our format to the format that you're seeing today, which is a half-day conference focused on a single theme. And we did that because with the smartphones and everything else, the attention span is shorter and shorter, and it's better to do this in shorter intervals, increments than we were doing previously in running an all-day conference. So we're excited you're here with us today to learn along with us more about blockchain. I've mentioned to some of my family members that we're doing a blockchain conference, and right away I learned from almost everybody in my family that they've invested in Bitcoin and marijuana stocks. I think I'm the only one in the family who hasn't. And my oldest son was telling me when I was telling him about this conference, oh, my friend invested $25,000 in Bitcoin and it became $1.8 million. So it's hard to it's hard to not get kind of attracted to those kinds of investments. But nevertheless, today we're going to learn about blockchain. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Joanna Herman, and she'll tell you more. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. First of all, for those who are doing social media, we're at DeSilva+Phillips and hashtag ODPTMT. So blockchain, it seems to be perhaps the hottest topic right now. And also, for as many people who are out there talking about blockchain, what I've been amazed at is how many exponentially more seem to have no idea what blockchain is. And so the problem about throwing this conference is that as this event was approaching, people kept asking me, what is blockchain? So I realized I needed sort of a pithy definition that I could give at cocktail parties, something like that. So I went to this book, The Truth Machine, which you'll all be getting a copy of, and the author will be moderating one of our panels, and then also, so you'll be learning more about it, and he'll be signing copies. And I went to that book and said, well, let me see, what is the definition of blockchain? So I got a really nice, easy definition here. Blockchain is a distributed, append-only ledger of probably signed, sequentially linked, and cryptographically secured transactions that's replicated across a network of computer nodes with an ongoing updates determined by a software-driven consensus. So that's perfect for a cocktail party conversation, right? So, the truth is that blockchain is very complex. But as most of you probably know, it's also built on a very simple concept. And so if we just sort of break it down, you've got this one little block. It's got digital data. It's verified. It's secure. It's identified. You put some blocks on top of it. Now, this is where the append only comes in, right? You can keep adding, but you can't go back. So you can't ever remove these blocks. Then, as you start to put them together, they're linked, but they're also distributed. So there's no master. It's all distributed. And this distributed piece is part of what makes it so powerful to businesses, because now there's no master in the center, and everybody has a copy of everything. And it's permissioned. So now what you've got is you've got a truly secure, and incredibly, you've got, and this is the, what is it from the definition, the cryptographically secured ability here to have this immutable system that also has a consensus. And consensus is something that comes up a lot in the book. And I think this is another one of the pieces of blockchain that's incredibly powerful, because it means that the truth machine, this is the definition of the book, is everybody verifies everybody else. So the distributed means that everybody has the copy. The consensus means that everybody is verifying. And there's no center. And when you think about this, it's an incredibly paradigm-shifting concept. And what we're going to talk about today is how that really expands well beyond the Bitcoin and a lot of the things that we've seen. But let's take a step back and talk about where did blockchain come from. So the other thing that I was so struck by when I was, as Reed said, learning along others about blockchain is how recent it is. So it's just been since 2008 that the first Bitcoin white paper was written by this sort of unknown Satoshi Nakamoto. And then in 2010, the first purchase was made with a Bitcoin. There was a pizza purchased for then the value of $25 for a pizza. That would now equate to $67 million. So that's $8.4 million per slice. That is one very expensive slice of pizza. So then we have seen over the years since 2010 that blockchain has really extended its uses well beyond Bitcoin. And I think what's very exciting to us and what made us start to take notice is you're seeing very large corporations starting to make bets and starting to build efforts, whether it's Philips with their healthcare lab, whether it's NASDAQ, whether it's Visa, Capital One, and we're going to talk some more about some of these efforts that are being done with very large companies that are totally outside the blockchain world but are now realizing that they want to invest and build strategies within blockchain. So why do we care? As Reed mentioned, we are Oaklins DeSilva+Phillips. Oaklins is the world's largest mid-market investment bank. We are the TMT practice for Oaklins, so technology, media, and telecommunications. And what we're seeing is that all the companies that we're working with and the industries that we cover have this potential to be completely transformed by blockchain. You know, people say this could be the next internet, and it really could be. And you know, if you look at just the market size right now, it's about 700 million. Not very large. But within just a few years, it's going to grow to over 2 billion. And then this is pretty incredible. It's predicted that by 2024, it's going to be 60+ billion. And in terms of investments, and that is a 90% market CAGR, which is pretty incredible. And so what's that driving, this sort of huge, when you see a market growing at 90%, you invest in it. So last year, there was over $1 billion invested in blockchain. And we're on track to do a lot more than that this year. And what I thought also very interesting is those investments are, a large minority of them actually are coming from outside the VC community, from corporate ventures. So again, we're seeing players across industries and across sort of investment classes really realizing the value in investing in this space. And it's also very global. So while the US remains dominant, you see a lot faster growth in these investments in Europe and in Asia. And then, as you would expect, there's a bit of a lag, but we're starting to see a pickup in M&A. So, you know, a couple years ago, there was just 2 deals. Last year, we had 9 deals. This year, we're on track to do a lot more than that. And these are sort of notable, larger deals within the blockchain space. And the other thing that I think is very interesting is how global the M&A is as well. So again, the majority of it is cross-border. And finally, what's interesting is that of these notable deals, some of them are in the cryptocurrency space, some of the very large deals with Coinbase, with Circle, but you're also seeing Airbnb and Spotify get into this space. So sitting here where we are again in the TMT sector, there's a study that was recently done by Deloitte that interviewed over 300 executives at large companies with at least 500 million or more in revenue. And within those, the TMT sector actually came back with the largest percentage of executives saying that they are already investing in blockchain, 31%. So that was a pretty eye-opening number. And if you look at what the potential is across these industries, and I'm just going to very quickly touch on each of the industries that we cover and talk about the potential, and then what I really hope is that a lot of this will come out in the discussion you'll hear with our panels following. But if you look at media, you can imagine what blockchain can do. I mean, this has the ability to actually eliminate piracy. It could actually become, you know, a secure methodology for distribution. And I think that's why you're seeing companies like the Spotify acquisition of MediaChain, which is going to really assist them with processing their royalty payments and could be incredibly powerful to many media companies. Then you've got advertising and marketing. So here you've got an ability to have more reliable data, more secure data, fraud prevention, a marketplace that's secure. And you're going to hear from one of our panelists from NIAX about some of the very interesting stuff they're doing on a platform for publishers and advertisers using blockchain. Education. Education is more nascent, but the potential is huge and worth noting. So you've got the ability for certifications, for assessment, and Sony Global has already put together an initiative around data information storage that they've put out of Sony Global Education using blockchain. Healthcare. An IBM study found, and this sort of even blows away the TMT numbers I mentioned earlier, that 56% of healthcare executives are expected to actually implement a commercial blockchain system by 2020. And the applications here, again, are incredible in terms of data management, in terms of billing, in terms of research, and you're going to hear from one of our panelists, HealthWiz, about what they're doing, creating a mobile application to share medical records on blockchain. And finally, information services. So we've already touched on a lot of this in terms of data security, in terms of real-time analysis. And a couple of our panelists are going to talk about some of the very interesting things they're doing, such as Dun & Bradstreet, who, of course, we're all familiar with the DUNS number. How do you create identification within blockchain? Well, that's an effort they're working on. And then IHS Markit is doing a number of very, very interesting efforts around blockchain, including a $1 trillion syndicated loan market, a blockchain effort to tokenize it.